A frail woman became pregnant 71 times in just 6 months. Yet every single time, her husband beat her until she miscarried. And every time he caused a child to die, he would celebrate afterward. It was not until the woman's 72nd pregnancy that he finally allowed her to give birth. But the child she delivered was a terrifying monster. The midwife was so frightened that she died on the spot. Yet the man simply smiled, because he was a legendary dancer. In order to gain endless inspiration for his art, he made a deal with a ghost, and it was clear that the deal had succeeded. Afterward, the father covered the child's face with a mask and raised him like a dog. Whenever he was hungry, he fought with the dogs for leftover food. Whenever he was tired, he slept beside them. Because of this, the villagers called him Inu-Oh. One day, Inu-Oh was lying in the yard under the sun when a sound of a biwa caught his attention. He followed the music and discovered that it was his father, who was a dancer, teaching his 2 younger brothers how to dance. However, no matter how many times he taught them, they simply couldn't learn the movements. But Inu-Oh only needed to see it once before remembering every detail. He began imitating the dance, and even created movements that were more beautiful than the original. After discovering his passion for dancing, Inu-Oh started practicing day and night. When he finally mastered the dance perfectly, something strange happened. He grew another human leg. Overjoyed, he danced around excitedly and rushed into the streets to share his happiness with the villagers. He thought that after growing a human leg, people would no longer discriminate against him. However, as he walked through the crowd, people still stared at him with fear and disgust. At that moment, the hatred he felt toward humans could no longer be contained. He walked into the center of the street and removed the mask he had worn for 8 years in front of everyone. The villagers were so terrified by his appearance that they scattered and fled. Seeing their reaction, Inu-Oh couldn't help but laugh. From that day on, he came out every night to scare people passing by, until one day, he met someone who was not afraid of him. Facing Inu-Oh's terrifying appearance, Tamona remained completely expressionless, because he had been blind for many years. This made Inu-Oh feel disappointed, but when he noticed the biwa Tamona carried on his back, he became curious and asked him to play a song. Then, as the beautiful sound of the biwa filled the air, Inu-Oh began dancing without realizing it. Under the moonlight and the stars, the dance and music blended perfectly together. The 2 of them worked together flawlessly, as if they were destined partners. Afterward, to thank Tamona for playing music for him, Inu-Oh shared the stolen steamed buns he had with him. While eating, the 2 friends told each other about their pasts. Tamona was once the son of a fisherman. One day, a treasure hunter found Tamona's father and asked him to retrieve a treasure chest belonging to the Haika clan, which had sunk beneath the sea. His father originally refused, but the reward offered was simply too tempting, so he eventually accepted the deal. During their journey, they encountered a strange crab, but they never realized that the crab was actually the ghost of a Haika clan warrior. Later, the father and son dove into the deep sea and successfully recovered the treasure chest. When his father opened it, he discovered that it contained a sword, but the moment he pulled out the blade, a powerful sword aura shot into the sky and instantly sliced through his body. Tamona was also struck by the sword's energy, which damaged his eyes. From that moment on, he became completely blind. The sudden tragedy drove his mother into madness, and she was no longer able to take care of him. After that, Tamona began wandering from place to place. Meanwhile, his father's ghost remained by his side, constantly reminding him not to forget his revenge against the Haika clan. Until one day, he met a blind monk who could play the biwa. The monk was singing about the battle where the Genji clan's army destroyed the Haika clan's navy at sea. The Haika clan members threw themselves into the ocean, and only a few survivors remained, hiding from the world. After hearing this, Tamona immediately approached the monk and asked where the remaining members of the Haika clan were hiding. He wanted to uncover the truth behind his father's death. Although the monk didn't know the answer, the 2 quickly became close through their conversation. Later, the monk accepted Tamona as his disciple and began teaching him how to play the biwa. One day, the master and disciple performed for a wealthy family. After finishing their song, the host warmly invited them to dinner. During their conversation, the monk mentioned that Tamona wanted to find the descendants of the Haika clan, but the host warned them to be extremely careful, because every biwa player who had performed songs about the Haika clan story had been murdered. Therefore, Tamona had no choice but to put aside his search and continue traveling with his master, singing along the way. Before they realized it, they arrived in Kyoto. However, to perform there, they had to join the local biwa guild and change his name to Tomoichi. But Tamona's father, who had become a ghost, refused to allow him to do so, because once Tamona changed his name, his father would never be able to find him again. He also repeatedly reminded Tamona that he must seek revenge for him. One night, the depressed Tamona went outside to clear his mind. Unexpectedly, he encountered Inu-Oh. The two of them shared similar experiences, and from that moment on, they became inseparable friends. As the days passed, Inu-Oh's two younger brothers still failed to improve. They were completely unable to inherit their father's dancing skills. Frustrated and angry, their father scolded them harshly, but at that moment, he saw Inu-Oh performing a breathtaking dance outside. A wave of jealousy immediately filled his heart. He rushed outside and kicked Inu-Oh away. However, Inu-Oh was not discouraged by this. He often met with Tamona to discuss dancing techniques. Without realizing it, his dancing continued to improve. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. The two of them had grown into adults. Inu-Oh also discovered something strange. Every time his dancing skills improved, his monstrous body would regain a little more of its human form. This left him deeply confused. Could it be that he had been cursed by a ghost? This made Tamona think of his own father, who had become a ghost. He wanted to summon him and ask about it. Soon, his father's ghost appeared before him, and he also brought some terrible news. Tamona's mother had passed away, and before long, his own body would continue shrinking until he completely disappeared. He had already accepted his fate and abandoned his desire for revenge. After saying that, he said goodbye and left. Tamona quickly asked him if there were any other ghosts nearby. His father told him that this entire mountain was filled with the ghosts of Haika clan warriors. It turned out that this was the hiding place of the remaining members of the Haika clan. The moment he finished speaking, countless Haika clan warrior ghosts appeared around them. Each ghost carried a tragic story of their own. The ghosts across the mountain shared their painful experiences, and these stories provided Inu-Oh and Tamona with the perfect inspiration. They immediately made a decision. They would spread the stories of every Haika clan warrior to the world. The two of them traveled through streets and alleys, using dance and music to tell the stories of the Haika clan warriors. And just like that, a completely new form of performance appeared before everyone. The lively atmosphere made the villagers unable to resist dancing along. As their performances became more and more popular, the two of them became famous everywhere. Meanwhile, Inu-Oh's father received no attention at all. Even the last few remaining audience members were drawn away by Inu-Oh's performances. After that, Inu-Oh built a dedicated stage and officially began performing the stories of the Haika clan. Through his incredible movements, he described how the Haika clan fell into chaos under the attack of the Genji clan's army. Their formation collapsed, and their morale quickly disappeared. The remaining Haika clan soldiers fled toward the sea. During the panic, many warriors drowned. Those who failed to escape were captured by the Genji clan army, who cut off their hands and feet. The realistic scenes made the audience feel as if they had truly entered the tragic battlefield. The entire crowd was filled with excitement. As the performance ended, Inu-Oh's monstrous arm miraculously transformed back into a human arm. This performance completely made Inu-Oh famous. People everywhere were talking about his incredible dancing skills. Some even began treating him like an idol. Soon, Inu-Oh began his second performance. Through dance, he recreated the decisive naval battle that determined the fate of the Haika clan. The Genji clan army destroyed the Haika fleet one by one. The Haika clan leader threw himself into the sea. The leader's wife, holding her 8-year-old son, jumped into the ocean while carrying the sacred sword Kusanagi no Tsurugi. From that moment on, the Haika clan was almost completely wiped out. Only a few survivors escaped and hid deep in the mountains. As Inu-Oh's performance became more intense, the audience began singing along. This completely new interactive style pushed the performance to its climax. Near the end, the wind blew open Inu-Oh's clothing. The scales on his back disappeared instantly. He had moved one step closer to becoming a normal human. This performance made Inu-Oh and Tamona famous throughout the entire land. Every day, powerful nobles came to visit, hoping to see the true face hidden beneath Inu-Oh's mask. But Inu-Oh could only politely refuse them again and again. Unlike Inu-Oh, the naturally solitary Tamona disliked social gatherings. Every time, he hid in the mountains behind the village and focused on playing the biwa. As they continued performing, Inu-Oh finally discovered his true purpose. He realized that he had not been cursed by the Haika clan ghosts. Instead, the ghosts wanted to use him to make their forgotten stories known to the world. Tamona also fully supported Inu-Oh. The two decided to spread the stories of the Haika clan across every street and village. However, because their popularity became too great, Their fame eventually reached the ears of the shogun Ashikaga. He became extremely interested in the performances of Inu-Oh and Tamona, so he sent someone to notify Inu-Oh's father. He wanted Inu-Oh to perform at the shogun's residence. After the performance, he also demanded that Inu-Oh remove his mask. Ashikaga wanted to see the true appearance hidden beneath the legendary mask. When Inu-Oh's father heard the news, a sinister smile appeared on his face. He believed that Inu-Oh's monstrous appearance would surely terrify Ashikaga, and frightening the shogun was a crime punishable by death. Thinking of this, he happily accepted the request, because Inu-Oh's dancing had filled him with endless jealousy. Now, he finally had the perfect opportunity to get rid of Inu-Oh. He then delivered the message to Inu-Oh. Although Inu-Oh did not want to accept, he had no way to disobey the shogun's order, so he could only train harder and prepare for the performance. Finally, the day of the performance for the shogun arrived. Nobles and warriors filled the venue. Everyone was waiting for the moment when Inu-Oh removed his mask. When Inu-Oh and Tamona appeared on stage in their finest clothes, and heard the cheers from the entire crowd, Inu-Oh suddenly felt that something was wrong. He had a strange feeling that this might be the final day of his performances. Tamona tried to comfort him and told him not to overthink things. They stepped onto the center of the stage, and the performance officially began. At that moment, Inu-Oh wore a warrior's armor, portraying the fallen Haika clan warriors. Through his graceful and expressive dance, he told the story of how the Haika clan warriors who died in battle became ghosts, wandering the human world day and night, unable to leave. Their loyalty and honor toward the Haika clan would be remembered by future generations forever. Then, Inu-Oh suddenly leapt into the water. Under the sunlight, his entire body shimmered with a golden glow. He prayed that the souls of the warriors who had sunk beneath the sea could finally reach heaven and find peace. As the performance reached its climax, he danced freely across the stage, attracting more and more ghosts. Inu-Oh suddenly realized that the ghosts still had stories that had never been told. So, he began an improvised performance, telling the story of how the Haika clan warriors were completely destroyed by the Genji clan. This was the true reason behind the ghosts' lingering regrets. Their grievances had never been revealed to the world, and that was why they remained in the human realm, unable to move on. Just then, the ghosts entered Inu-Oh's mind and revealed the truth that had been hidden for years. The real person responsible for Tamona's father's death was Ashikaga. In order to unify the entire country, he sent people disguised as merchants to search for the 3 sacred treasures that had been scattered among the remaining members of the Haika clan. Those treasures represented the legitimate authority of the ruler. 2 of them had already been found. The last one was the Kusanagi no Tsurugi, which had sunk deep into the ocean, but Tamona's father knew nothing about this. He was accidentally killed by the very sword he had recovered. The ghosts also revealed the truth behind why Inu-Oh was transformed into a monster. Everything began with his father. Back then, in order to protect his title as the greatest dancer, his father made a deal with the masked ghost, which was created from the spirits of Haika clan warriors. As long as he wore the mask, every time he killed a biwa player, he could absorb the Haika clan stories they had collected and use them as inspiration for his performances. However, there were only a limited number of biwa players. Before long, his father had slaughtered them all, and his source of inspiration gradually disappeared. Driven by his own vanity, he eventually chose to make another deal with the masked ghost using his unborn child as the price. After sacrificing 71 children, Inu-Oh was finally allowed to be born, but because of the curse, he was born as a monster. After learning the truth, Inu-Oh regained his focus and continued dancing. Meanwhile, Inu-Oh's father was hiding nearby, secretly watching the performance. He was waiting for Inu-Oh to make a mistake from nervousness, but he never expected that Inu-Oh not only performed flawlessly, he became even better with every move. Consumed by jealousy, his father screamed in anger and begged the masked ghost to kill Inu-Oh. But this time, the masked ghost refused to obey him. Instead, it killed him directly, because even the masked ghost could no longer tolerate someone so greedy with such a corrupted heart. In the end, the moment Inu-Oh removed his mask, his face completely returned to that of a normal human. Everyone thought Inu-Oh and Tamona would continue performing together, but no one expected that their stories of the Haika clan would completely enrage Ashikaga. He banned anyone from singing or telling the stories of the Haika clan, and ordered his men to kill every musician who had participated in their performances. Fortunately, Tamona managed to escape. He ran desperately through the streets until he reached the Biwa Guild and begged his master for help. He could not understand what crime he had committed by simply playing the music he loved, but his master had no choice. The only solution he could offer was for Tamona to change his name to Tomoichi and hide his identity to survive the disaster. One day, the pursuing warriors found him. They beat him mercilessly and even tried to kill him with their swords. At the critical moment, his master stepped in front of him and took the fatal strike instead, watching his teacher die before his eyes. Tamona completely broke down. He charged at the warriors, wanting to fight them to the death, but he was easily defeated and thrown into prison. Meanwhile, Inu-Oh was also imprisoned inside Ashikaga's palace. Ashikaga demanded that he stop performing stories about the Haika clan. Inu-Oh refused to accept, but Ashikaga threatened Tamona's life, forcing Inu-Oh to surrender. From that moment on, he lost his freedom. He could only dance for Ashikaga alone. On the other side, Tamona was released only after the warriors broke both of his legs, but he still refused to give up. Even while relying on a wooden cart, he returned to the streets and continued playing songs about the tragic fate of the Haika clan warriors. Later, his hands were cut off. Yet even then, he continued singing until the final moment of his life. 600 years passed. Tamona's ghost was performing a solo on the street. Following the sound of his music, Inu-Oh arrived. He had been searching for Tamona for 600 years. The moment they looked at each other, they instantly returned to the forms they had as children. On that night beneath the brilliant stars, they sang and danced together. At that moment, there was no fame, no status, and no oppression from those in power. There was only their love for performance and the freedom they had always desired. 600 years later, the souls of Inu-Oh and Tamona finally reunited and performed together once again. It became the deepest expression of friendship and freedom. Because some things cannot be destroyed by power, and cannot be erased by time, their friendship surpassed appearance, identity, and even destiny. Although Tamona was blind and had never seen Inu-Oh's terrifying appearance, what he saw was Inu-Oh's burning heart. And through Tamona's biwa music, Inu-Oh finally discovered the true way to express himself. They were each other's inspiration, and they completed each other. If you are feeling lost right now, and you don't know where your path leads, that's okay, but remember this, there is a voice inside your heart that only you can hear. Only you can make that voice heard. Find it, protect it, and then, just like Inu-Oh and Tamona, dance a dance that belongs only to you, not for applause, and not to be seen by others, but simply to prove that you were here, and that you once burned brightly, even if nobody notices. As long as you know it yourself, that is enough.